Yes, good afternoon. Savva here from Football Heritage TV, joined for Sav and Potts for 60 minutes, give or take, to discuss all things football. I'm Spurs, he's Arsenal. There's still a big, wide Premier League out there. We'll discuss it all. Dan Potts, how are you, mate? You well?
I'm good, bro. I'm glad that I got the memo to wear the black t-shirt, mate. I'm glad that we're looking the same. That's always good. And listen, thank you for covering last night. I've been away and I feel refreshed now. Sometimes you need a break, mate, and that's exactly what I did last night. I've had today and yesterday off work, so I've been able to chill and stay away from YouTube for 24 hours, which is something I haven't been able to do for what feels like about 5 years. So yeah, it's been lovely, mate. And thank you for taking over the show last night. It was a blinder. I watched it back and it was class. So thank you very much, mate.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Yeah, listen, I can't remember the last time I had about 3 hours away from YouTube. So I can only imagine how that must feel. Look, let's jump straight in. Big up to everyone in the chat. Whoever you support, you are more than welcome to be here and discuss all things football with us. I suppose of all the transfer stories, the breaking news right now would be that everyone assumed Olise was joining Chelsea, and he's just signed a new 4-year contract. Good for Olise, bad for Olise, good for football, bad for football. What do you make of that situation?
I don't really know if it's good or bad for football. I think sometimes you look at things in different ways. A lot of people will say it's bad for his ambition by staying at a club that aren't going to be competing in this season, and turning down the likes of Chelsea and Manchester City to go and win trophies. You can also look at it as he feels that he's going to get first team football at Palace. He's happy at Palace and he's young, so he's got his career ahead of him that doesn't rule out another move later in life. I think Palace have done a really good job here to keep hold of him because for losing him for £35 million release clause would have been pretty criminal, to be fair. It's an absolute bargain. I know he's 21. I know he hasn't won anything in football, but look at the transfer market right now. I think Palace would have been very disappointed to only have got that much money for him. So I think there's a couple of different ways to look at it. Like to look at it and think that footballers have a little bit more sense than just let's just go to the big club and win trophies. But at the same time, I've always been about go and win something and be ambitious. So I think this one's a little bit strange as far as he's aware. But I suppose the people that love the beautiful game will look at it differently and say this is great for football because Olise said no to big clubs to stay and sign with Crystal Palace. So I suppose you look at it two different ways, Savva. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, what this does do is it ensures whenever Olise does go, and assuming that his performances still stay to where they were at the back end of last season, that it does make Crystal Palace more money. But obviously, that is dependent on staying injury free, keeping up those performances, because a bad year, and all of a sudden, you've then got a player on a 4-year contract who now he has missed his big opportunity to go. So there are pros and cons for both clubs and for the player, right? It's not just a one-way street.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he's gonna. I think he's a top talent, by the way. I think he's a top player, and I do think he's going to reach the top. I do have question marks over his attitude. I must admit, his mentality has been a bit strange and a bit weird, and I think sometimes when he's been interviewed, he's been a little bit off his head, and I don't know if that's like sort of because he's not really good with the media yet because he's young or what, but I have got question marks there. However, I haven't got any questions on the pitch. I think he's a top talent, and I think it's an absolute steal for Palace to get him from Reading for like 8 million or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Really good talent, really good bit of scouting. Good from Patrick Vieira, to be fair. I believe you signed him. So I do think there's a talent there, and I do think that he'll have a good season, and it won't put the likes of Chelsea off now. I think Chelsea would have enough. We've seen already Chelsea and City have not got a problem with going, all right, he's no longer 35 million, he's now 60 million. I will go and buy him next summer for 60 million then. I don't think this keeps him at Palace for the next 4 years. I really don't. I don't see that, you know. So yeah, that's the way I see it, mate.
And of course, D is happy, isn't he? Old D Palace is a very happy boy right now. So what can you know, if anything, we're happy for him. Big up to everyone who's in the chat. We are growing by every minute. There are more and more people coming into the show. So hello to you. Any questions you've got, whack them in. I'll try get to as many as possible. Anyone wants to know about membership, subscribing, or super chats, just let me know as well as we chase down the 10K. And we're within touching distance of the 10K now. It's just right there. Dan, let's talk about your boys. One of your big summer signings, Urian Timber.
Yeah.
Bought in, can play. My understanding is that he can play anywhere across the back line and also can play in defensive midfield as well. You've bought him for the first team stroke squad depth. And after the first game of the season. He's now out for 6 to 7 months, is it, with an ACL?
Easily. Yeah, easily, mate.
I mean, what's going to happen now? Arteta's saying that you're always open in the market. Do you expect to see your boys go back in and get somebody, even if it's on loan, to cover?
Well, I feel like we have to. First of all, he's a top talent, and he's been one of the ones that's impressed in pre-season. He's certainly, out of the 3 new signings, been our best, and it's a big blow. I mean, 1 game in and an ACL is crazy, and I don't understand how already we see 4 people go down with ACLs, Savva, in week 1. I mean, that is a serious concern for football if that's the case. Interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks. But as for Timber, he could play right back, left back, right centre back, probably could play left centre back as well, and he can play as a number 6. So he's a very versatile player, one that we bought in that this season we would have had a chance to see him, because obviously what we've seen of late is if Saliba gets injured, we had Rob Holding. Well, now we would have had Ben White and Timber to come in at centre-half if need be. Now that he's gone, and there's rumours of Kieran Tierney's future being up in the air, it'll be surprising for me if we don't go in the market now, which is crazy, because I thought, right, defence, we're done. Let's move on to the midfield and up top, because they were still short in those positions. Now it looks like we're going to have to go and buy another central defender as well, or a right-back. So there's 2 options we've got. We can go and release a clause of Ivan Fresneda, at £20 million. He can play right back, and then we have Ben White to cover at right centre back, or we go and buy another versatile centre half that can play in a few number of positions. But who is the question? I think we need another one, because otherwise, if Saliba and Tomiyasu get injured like they did last year, we're back to Ben White and Rob Holding, which is just not good enough for me. So it's a big blow, big blow for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite strange, isn't it? Because I mean, I was having this debate with a few Arsenal fans the other day that are probably a little bit more emotional as Arsenal fans than I think you are with your kind of level-headedness, Dan, if you want to take that as a as a compliment. Just said, look, right now with Timber being out, with Havertz being a player that no one wanted, and Rice in, Xhaka out, my question is, have you actually strengthened with squad depth, or have you just added a better centre mid for a worse centre mid? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there that way of looking at it? I'm not being negative on Arsenal.
No, I think you're.
I just feel like 200 odd million, and I can't see that you've got any depth added.
No, you're right. The only 2 positions that I look at and go, wow, now are David Raya and Declan Rice. That is it. Right. That is literally it. So we've got a better goalkeeper back up, and we've got a better centre midfielder than Granit Xhaka. Kai Havertz is going to come in and do a job rotation-wise, I think, in a few positions. I still don't quite know if it's going to work. For me, I have my doubts. I don't really like the guy, if I'm honest, in terms of what I've seen so far at Chelsea and in the first few games at Arsenal. I don't go, wow, this guy's unbelievable. I asked the Arsenal fans who are getting excited about Havertz where their evidence is that he's going to kill it for us. I don't know. I think that what Arsenal fans are doing is they're putting their faith in Arteta, not Havertz. That's the difference. Okay. So when people are saying this is a great signing, they're saying this is a great signing because what Arteta will do with him, not this is a great signing because look at the player, he's world class. And that's really foolish for me, because you don't know that Arteta's going to get the best out of him. We've still not seen where the best position is for him. He's already played up top and number 10 and an attacking 8 for us. So where is there personally that this guy is going to play for us? I'm not so sure. In the first team, he doesn't get in it. Urian Timber was an excellent signing and made our window look a lot better, but now that he's injured, we might have to go in there again. I feel
it's a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money.
Well, this is what you get when you've spent £65 million on one player that you can't really find a place for in a team. You know, I'm all for strength in depth. You know, sometimes you can't win because people will sign players and they'll go, "What the hell we signed these for?" So you can't win. It's if Arsenal ain't got any depth for their signing players. This ain't got any depth. Well, we have signed 4 players now. You know what I mean? So it's not like we sat there and just gone, right, Rice for Xhaka, let's go, let's get rid of the season. And the window's still not done yet. Having said that, Savva, if we don't strengthen, then I worry, because I still don't think we're sorted up top. I still don't think that Saka's got any form of cover at all, and I think that the drop off is massive when he's out the side. And I still can't help but think that in our midfield, even though I've just talked about Rice and Havertz, that we're still short. Because if Jorginho and Partey are our 6s and Declan Rice can play there, we're fine. But actually, who is the box-to-box midfielder if Declan Rice isn't there? Because Smith Rowe, Vieira and Havertz are all up in the air as to whether they can do that job. So I do think we're short. I will say there are other teams that don't have the same energy for Arsenal. So, when fans talk about other teams, Manchester United could be in a title race. I don't really see that statement being true. Certainly not from how they played the other day. But their squad is poor. Arsenal haven't got enough strength in depth to compete with Man City, but Liverpool have. Well, they haven't even got a defensive midfielder, from what I can see. So all these statements are a little bit strange, as far as I'm concerned. But saying that, I don't think Arsenal are ready to go and win the title yet. There's still 2 weeks to go. And I've always said that Manchester City will win the league, and I stand by it at the moment. So there's a lot for us to do still. There's a lot for everyone to do still, But I do feel like Arsenal are in a fairly good position in comparison to some of the others, but it still isn't good enough for me to win the league. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, I think there's definitely two ways of looking at it. I still see you as, for me, I still put you definitely in that top 2, 3. I think is the worst. I think third will be the worst, but I still think at the moment you are the second best club in the country in terms of your squad. It was just purely looking at it, going, all right, we spent 200 million. What have we added to it? And that was where I was coming from. But people were just getting a bit biased and going mad at me. I'll move away from Arsenal just for a second, and we'll come back.
Sure.
What do you think about this whole situation with with Endo at Liverpool? So obviously in the last sort of 48, probably the last 72, 48 hours, Chelsea have gone and signed Caicedo and Lavia. It feels like both were a carbon copy in terms of stalling their interest. Liverpool went in front as favourites, and then Chelsea went, no, we're not having that. We'll get both of them. Then Liverpool moved very quickly after Lavia rejected them. They've gone and got Endo from Stuttgart. Works out to £15.3 million, Dan. Really good player, can play defensive midfield or centre-half. He's the captain of Japan. Is this the proverbial panic buy, or could this be a masterclass and a sensational bit of business very cheap?
Well, to sum it up, I don't know much about him, which probably means he'll do well, because most of the Liverpool players I don't know much about seem to do well. And this is what I couldn't quite understand with some of the Liverpool fans losing their heads was, how many times have Liverpool gone and got an absolute ready-made star? They've built their side on getting players from Roma, Southampton. They got Robertson from Hull. Oh, we don't want Tyler Adams. He's been relegated. What do you want Lavia for then? He got relegated. You bought Robertson from Hull for like £8 million. All of this stuff was coming out. Now, I always knew that Liverpool would need 2 DMs, and this is the first one, and I believe they'll go in and get another one. Now, I don't know if that's going to be Paulinho, if that's going to be Decore, if that's going to be someone that we don't know about yet. But I do think they'll go and get somebody. Amrabat is the other one that we're going to talk about, and I feel personally that will happen. I never doubted it would. When someone comes in with 115 million, Savva, they're not going to go, let's just not get anyone then. Caicedo doesn't want us.
Sure, they've got the funds.
They've got the funds to go and sort out, in my opinion, which is 2 DMs and a centre back. And then Liverpool were talking. We can talk about Liverpool going for a title push then. At the moment, we can't, because they're playing McAllister there, or Thiago Silva there, or Bajcetic there. But for me, Liverpool have got a very, very good squad. And a lot of people are sleeping on Liverpool now because they've had a bad couple of days. All of a sudden, their season is over. I don't think their season's over at all. I still think they've got a world-class goalkeeper, unbelievable fullbacks, great front line of about 4 or 5 that know how to score goals. It is literally just their centre-half pairing and their midfield pairing for me. And once they get that sorted, there's no reason why Liverpool can't still win something. They're still favourites to win the Europa League for me, Liverpool, because they're great in Europe, and for me, they're probably the best side in there. So I don't really understand the whole meltdown situation. I get that they're pissed. We've been there before. We lost out on Mudryk before for Chelsea. They just went and slap the money down and get it. This is what Chelsea do, and it's hard for us all to compete with them. But their season isn't over just because they've lost out on Caicedo and Lavia. Yeah. There are other players out there, and they got
a point away at Chelsea, right? It's not the end of the world, right? It's not like they've started with a 4-0 defeat. And
I agree. Yeah. And that's what I think.
I think the strange thing is already I'm seeing, and by the way, this guy is in my chat. Anything I say just goes the opposite, so I do laugh at him. But look, he is 30 years of age, but sometimes you need some experience. You do need some experience. And
who's 30? Sorry.
Endo.
Is he? I don't know much about him, Savva. I don't honestly know much about him, and that surprises me if he's actually 30 years old. I don't know much about him. That's a bit of a worry.
I'll tell you what it means. I think it means that they're going for one more as well. I think 100%. It means that I can't believe they'll go in with just Endo, McAllister, and Soboslai, and then a couple of kids. I reckon they try for an Amrabat. They try for someone like that, and if they do, I think they'll be strong. But also the fact that Endo can play centre half, and Liverpool, one of the areas that's been pointed out in the last year or so, since the Van der Vaart, that was nearly his name, since the Virgil van Dijk injury, is that they haven't been as good at the back. So in a way, it could be a nice cheap deal that turns out to be a bit of a godsend, right? If he can play two positions, like Timber can play two positions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think as well, Van Dijk can't play 40 games anymore, right? And alongside Kenyatte, who I do rate by the way, but sometimes of late has had some errors. You need a centre half next to Kenyatte that's better than two players that, to be fair, have done well at Liverpool but aren't going to hit the heights. And I think Matip has been criminally underrated for the last few seasons. I really do. But I don't think that he's going to sit there and be forever that guy. And I think Joe Gomez is an all right player, but he's not one that you look at as adequate cover. So if they can get a centre half in, I think they're looking at the Sporting Lisbon guy as well, Inacio. I don't know much about him, but
he's just signed a new contract today. He's just signed a new contract.
So that's not looking likely now. Okay.
With a 60 million release clause. So
okay, so that's not looking likely now then.
Who knows? Who knows?
It's probably going to be not going to happen there then. I honestly, it makes me laugh because if Liverpool would have signed Caicedo, Savva, everybody would have been going, they're in a title race. This is how close it is. So now they haven't signed Caicedo, it's like, well, I reckon they'll struggle for top four. What, one player? And you think now they'll struggle for top four, but they were going to win a title with him. That's too extreme for me. So I still think they can have a good season. I still think they can salvage their window because there's enough time. And if there was to get Endo and let's say Decore, they might not be happy because it's not Caicedo and Lavia, but I wouldn't sit there and go, well, they've got zero chance of getting top four then, or zero chance of being up there. So I don't think they can. I still think they can salvage their window, mate. I really do.
I do think though, with a certain sector of football fans, I do think that they think that unless you're buying the big name that has been hyped up all window, that the player you're getting is rubbish, right? And this guy got rave reviews at the World Cup. He's highly regarded in Stuttgart from what I'm reading online today. But listen, it is what it is. Another player I want to move towards. If we want to look at this, is Tottenham Hotspur are apparently my lot.
Go
on. We need a striker, right? That's not apparently. We definitely need a striker, right? We've been linked with Lukaku, with Lautaro Martinez. We've been linked with Taremi of Porto, Gift Orban, Dusan Vlahovic. We've been linked with, you name it. We've been linked with them. Kolo Muani. What do you think the sort of striker would be that Tottenham would need for? It's easy for me to say as a Spurs fan, but from the outside looking in, what do you think Spurs need in terms of their striker profile?
Excuse me. I think that at the moment with what they've got, they're well short. I would give up on this Son on the left situation and play him down the middle. If I was a Tottenham fan, I would want Son down the middle. I don't think, and the left is looking the same player. I think Richarlison on the left and Kulusevski on the right would probably be better than what you're currently trying to look at. I thought your front three were really poor against Brentford. I actually thought the rest of you played really well. Your midfield looked really good. And I think when Bentancur comes back, I think with Maddison and Basuma, that's going to be fine. But you need a centre forward. Now, it depends what sort of profiled striker you want, because the Harry Kane profile, you're never going to replace him. But the profile is obviously like a Vlahovic, Lukaku type. I understand why they're going for those kind of names. I don't think Vlahovic would go. Lukaku, I don't know what his situation is at the moment with Chelsea. I don't know who actually else wants them. I know Chelsea want to get rid of him, so that could be an opportunity for him to try and revive what's left of his career. Unpopular opinion, I think Martinez is unbelievably overrated. I don't see it personally. I watched him and thought it was embarrassing how bad his World Cup was, considering Argentina won. Every time he went through, he just fluffed his lines. Misses a hell of a lot of chances, very wasteful. But at the moment, Tottenham haven't got anybody. So you're going to have to look at somebody. Maybe a Jonathan David. Somebody like that, who's probably going to be happy to come over to London to Spurs, has got guaranteed goals over where he's playing, would be a potential option. The other option I think you mentioned earlier, I've completely gone out of my head now, but there was somebody. Oh, Kolo Muani. I think that would be an opportunity for you as well. I think that would be realistic. So one of those two, maybe. I don't. Yeah, I agree with Daniel. I don't think Vlahovic or Lautaro Martinez would come to Tottenham. I think you've got more chance of Lukaku than those two, if I'm honest.
Please no, please
Exactly.
no,
I
please
wouldn't want
no.
him. I think he's the guy's a bum. But that's the way it is. Yeah, maybe somebody like Jonathan David or Kolo Muani would be two options that you could go for. Taremi was another one you mentioned at Porto. Very, very good goal ratios. I know that he's 30
Mm.
now, but he's
Yeah,
been
he's
very, very
31, isn't he?
underrated and
Yeah, yeah,
overlooked. Yeah,
yeah.
so you could go there, but you do have to have a centre forward in my opinion. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if I would go down the Ollie Watkins or Calvert-Lewin route either. Personally, I think you could. I don't think Watkins would leave Villa anyway, but I think Calvert-Lewin. I wouldn't look at him. His injuries are just way too much, man. I don't
Yeah,
think there's
yeah.
a
Oh,
bad
yeah,
player there,
yeah.
but his injuries are terrible. So
He,
it's going to be
I
hard,
feel
man. There's not many
like,
about, Savva. There's not many about.
mate, honestly, I truly feel like with the Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it always feels like, well, when Calvert-Lewin gets fit, Everton will be okay. When he gets fit, if he gets fit, when he never seems to be fit. He was fit to do the advert. What was it? The Gillette razor advert, whatever he did. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I don't rate him anyway. Lots of people talking about Ivan Toney there to be taken. It's going to be an interesting one with Ivan Toney, isn't it? Because I think everyone's just assuming that come January, everyone's going to bid for a Toney and he plays. But surely Toney will want to be a bit respectful to Brentford, having put them through a bit of a, his actions have
Mm.
caused them a problem. They're sticking by him. Can you see him going in January? Because no one's allowed to do any business with him between now and then. So can you see a bid from anyone?
Yeah, I can see bids. Whether he'll go or not is on Brentford. Do they want to sell him? How much would they sell him for? Because again, 100 million, it'll be about that. It won't be 40 million. Do you know what I mean? This is a player that's got 19 goals last season, and other than Harry Kane, for me, now that he's gone, probably after Haaland, he's the one that everyone's going to be looking at. So I would love him at Arsenal. I would absolutely love him at Arsenal, Ivan Toney. He's the one that I would go for, and I would still put in a bid at January. I think we need a striker. A lot of people say we don't because we've got Eddie and Havertz and all these, but for me, we definitely need a striker because if Jesus is out like he is, then we're going to need another centre forward. So Ivan Toney, for me, if Arsenal were to go into the new year and we're in the deep stages of competition still, then I would say Ivan Toney coming in is going to make everybody go, whoa, Arsenal was serious. As far as Tottenham are concerned, I think he'd be a fantastic signing for you. I just don't know if there's the opportunity for that to happen. But if I was Tottenham, I'd want to go all out for him now with the Harry Kane money. That's what I'll be doing, lumping it down. Could Tottenham with one game a week do without a centre forward other than just Richarlison and Son to kind of mix around there until January? Maybe they could. It might be risky, but maybe they could. If it meant Tony's coming in, I think most of your fan base would say okay.
Yeah. By the way, just quickly for people saying bid for him this second, not Jan. I don't know what people don't understand. He's not allowed to be involved in any form of football activity until his ban ends. He's not allowed to train. He's not allowed to play behind closed doors. He's not allowed to sign any marketing endorsements. He's not allowed to be transferred or loaned. You can't do anything with him right now. So people saying that need to just relax a little bit. There are a lot of questions that we'll get to shortly. But Donna Cullen in the chat, I don't know. Donna Cullen is actually one of the board directors for Tottenham Hotspur. Said, hi, Potts, very hot beard you have. Lovely.
Much appreciated.
And then come back in and said, Mr. Savva, you are shining bright as always too. No, do you know what? No, not listen. If you're going to give the first compliment to Dan, then I feel a little bit used now. But thank you very much. A player that a lot of people keep talking about is El Wahahi. I always get his name wrong. El Wahahi.
I can't say his name either.
Yeah.
El Wahahi, yeah.
Yeah. Lots of people keep talking about him, and also somebody that has only come to a bit more prominence because of last night's goal in the European Super Cup is El Nasri at Seville. Always seems to be a good target man, strong and powerful, scores goals, never seems to be involved in any kind of transfer talk.
Yeah, he doesn't. And he's always been a good player, isn't he? It's not like he's a young kid who's just come onto the market now at 21, you know. This player has always been pretty good, and he's never really linked with the big moves. But I don't know. I don't know how many centre forwards right now there are out there. And this is a
Yeah.
mad thing to say, because when people say, and let's just say top clubs, you need another striker and you're a top club. Let's say Real Madrid, who still haven't got a centre forward from what I believe after Benzema. They've got Osimhen as an option. They had Harry Kane as an option. After that, kind of struggling, because it goes down to the Vlahovic's and the Colin Mwanis you're talking about. Ramos, who's just gone to PSG, I think that's a very good signing. So, then that's why people are looking at those names we're just mentioning. Ivan Toney, Tammy Abraham's another one, ACL. No one's going to sign him, because he's got an ACL. But he did very, very well for Roma. Not the season just gone, the season before. I think he was the top English striker in Europe, ahead of Harry Kane. So I think, that's another option for a team, but he's not about at the moment. Could anybody match Mitrovic's bid? Because obviously Saudi are looking at him for, I think it's £46 million.
Yeah.
Does anybody fancy
it's a
50
shame.
million? Well,
it's a shame. I think he could do.
scores
I think
goals.
he could do well. Yeah. I mean, imagine him up front for Chelsea. I know, obviously, the Fulham links. Imagine him up front for Chelsea, Arsenal, with the amount of chances that you guys
Well,
create.
I think Tottenham. He'd do well at Tottenham as well. I really do.
Agree.
So I can see why the people are going for these names now, because there's just no. Years ago, there was an unbelievable amount of talent, wasn't there? And you just thought, wow, there's so much. I can't see. Name me the top 10 strikers. I'd struggle after 5. I'd struggle to put them in order. That's for sure. So, yeah, Tottenham will do something. I'm just not quite sure who they're going for, man.
I think this is the thing. You get a lot of fans that turn their noses up at a lot of forwards, but there's not many in the world. Like there's not. There really isn't. Like in the last 48 hours, I've seen Spurs fans say no. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'd say yes to all of these, but you've got no to Mitrovic, no to Lukaku, no to Lautaro Martinez, no to El Wahi, no to Gift Orban. It's kind of like, where are you? What do you want? Like, who do you want? Because there is no bucket out there of just pick all these top strikers definitely when I was growing up and there were strikers everywhere. Going to get to some questions, Dan, obviously, and we'll go through the rest of the chat in a little bit. Brazil has said, why don't Spurs go for a 1-year Forest? Would be perfect for Ange Ball. I
quite like him.
We'll see. I think he looks a handful. It'd be interesting to see how he performs off the back of the end of last season when he came back from injury and Forest started to get their great escape going. So, yeah, that's definitely one to watch. SOF, big up to always a big supporter channel, said Spurs in talks with Rennes for Ndombele. Could a deal get done for Doku to come the other way? I mean, who has said this? I'd love to know, SOF. Who's any reputable sources, or is it Hines? Who has said that this is happening?
I thought Doku was going to City.
Well, that was going to be my very next point. I think Jeremy Doku is in conversation with City, and I'll be brutally honest, I don't know why you would. I'm going to say I don't know why you'd pick Spurs over Man City. Right, let's call it for what it is. Just having a look. Mud FC has said Lautaro is class. What do you mean he can't finish? Look at his stats. Interesting, isn't it? That when honestly, this guy divides massive opinion.
Yeah,
but
he does.
If you look at his stats, he does score 20 plus goals every season. Interesting one. Let's have a look at some of these questions, and then we'll come back to the comments. Savva, would you want Gnonto on the left wing and Son up top? Not Gnonto, no, I don't think he's ready yet. I think he looks like one of those young, quick, lively players. But I think if you want to go to the next level, for me, I don't think he's quite there. Where was he meant to be going? And he's refused to play for Leeds, isn't he? He was meant to be joining.
Everton.
Right. Okay.
Everton, I think.
Okay. There you go.
You're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Everton. Do you like Gnonto? Is he a player that you? I mean,
yeah,
do you want
I
him
do
at
actually.
You like him?
I do. I just don't like what he's done at the moment at Leeds, and that attitude just stinks to me. To refuse to play, that is not good for his next club, in my opinion. But I do think he's a very, very good player, very talented boy. And it was Mitoma and Gnonto that, for me, came onto the scene last season. And for me, just were, wow, who are these stars? They look class. So he's a good player, man.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not doubting he's a good player. I just think at the moment, Spurs, I think if we're going to replace one of our wide men, I just want to see a little bit more output, if I'm brutally honest. But that's just me. By the way, guys and girls, please smash the like button. There's 365 of you in here and only 86 likes. Come on. It really does help the algorithm and it's free. That's all we ask for. We're not asking for a lot. Just smash that like button, and much appreciated. Amy has said, do Arsenal fans want to let go of Balogun as a US men's national team future star? Is that, yeah? He wants playing time somewhere else. Yeah, I just had to think of that on my feet. Balogun, what's going on? If he's this good, why are you guys not all over him playing?
Because I don't know that he is this good. Yes,
okay.
Anyway, I think potentially he could be unbelievable. Scored a lot of goals in France. When he went to Middlesbrough, he flopped, if I'm honest, on loan. He didn't look great there. And I'd love to see him on loan in England. That's what I would like, personally, if I had my preference. Go to Brighton, Palace, West Ham on loan and see what you can do, mate. And then come back to Arsenal if you believe you're good enough. But I don't know that he's going to be guaranteed first-team football at Arsenal. It's weird because we need another striker. There's not really another centre-forward out there. And we've kind of got one that we might be leaving. Now, people think it's crazy, but it's not crazy when Balogun says, I want to leave. You've got to let him go. You can't hang on to someone who wants to leave. And for whatever reason, we believe that he needs to go. The rumours are 50 million, which sounds crazy, but when Højlund goes for 75 million, it's probably not crazy because he scored 22 goals and Højlund got 8 or 9. So I think we'll probably end up selling him between 40 and 45 million somewhere. That will be rising up somehow. And it will go somewhere, I don't know where, and then we'll use that money to maybe look at somebody like Kudus, or a centre forward of some kind that we've just mentioned, Kolomoani's or one of those guys. So I do think it will be an interesting last end to the window. But Balogun, for me, I think has got a lot of potential. People say, oh, well, Lacazette scored more in France. You know, everyone can score in France. It's a farmers' league. But there wasn't 15 people that scored 20 goals, was there, in France? Yeah. You know what I mean? So when people say everyone can score 20 goals, why did only 4 do it then? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's crazy.
I keep hearing this about Orban. Like, people are like, oh my God, he's only playing in Belgium. The kid's 21. He's played 49 pro games and scored 44 goals. If it's just Belgium, every striker in Belgium should have scored 44 and 49, right? So, yeah, I hear you. And I do think we do that a lot in this country. We always belittle where a player plays.
We do.
But let's be fair, most of this league is foreign and came out of foreign leagues. So, hey, it is what it is. Mud FC, this is another one that's been linked with us today. Did a video on this earlier, Dan. You should check it out. It's great. Great narration by me. Just joking. Kyogo obviously played with Big Ange, Big Ange Postecoglou at Celtic for 2 years. I think he got something like 56 goals in 80 appearances across all competitions in that time. Knows the Ange system. Again, you're going to get, it's only Celtic though. It's only Scotland. Do you know a lot? Do you know anything about this guy?
Not really. He does score goals. He's only 5'7" though. He's tiny, but he's a good player and one that does do well. But it's only the Scottish League, Savva.
Right.
Listen, it's a tough one for me, the Scottish League, because actually there's a lot of good that can come out of it as well. We bought Kieran Tierney from there. I know that he's not playing, and he rumours that he may be leaving. But his attitude is spot on. It's a winning mentality, and if you buy anybody from Celtic or Rangers, they are drilled in every single weekend. You win today. You have to win. So that's not pressure. A bad thing to bring over. There's pressure to win, and the mentality is normally a winning mentality. So, it's one that I would not laugh at if I was Spurs. But I do think you're going to get players. I do think you're going to.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think we will do a few bits, but there are 14 days of the window to go, and all our deadwood is still here. We'll come back to the chat in a minute. There's a few more questions. Revolutionary Independent has said, what do you guys think of Lewis Hall signing for Newcastle? Dan, Lewis Hall, he's made 9 Premier League appearances in his career for Chelsea, and they're talking about 28 rising to 35 million.
Yeah, a lot of Chelsea fans are unhappy about this, actually. They didn't want to lose him. They wanted him to go on loan. But they've got Cucurella and Chilwell, who was combined 120 million. So they can't be too upset when you go and spend 120 million on 2 left-backs and then get the because the one that's young goes. I don't get that.
First world football problems as a Chelsea fan, right?
I mean, that is incredible, isn't it? Anyway, what do I think of the player? I think he looks a talent, and he's young, and you're right, he's only played a few games, but when he has played, he's looked good. From what I know, I believe he's actually not a left-back. I know he plays there now, but he wasn't. I think he was a midfielder or a attacking midfielder or something.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, but he's playing there well now. Newcastle need a left-back because they've only got Dan Burn. Livramento and Trippier can both play there, apparently, but they don't want to risk that. They'd rather have strength in depth, and they need that now they're in the Champions League. So I can see this being a good signing, and I think him and Dan Burn will fight it out. It's a lot of money, but you're going to pay that for a young, up-and-coming English talent, aren't you? So Newcastle have got the money. I'm happy because I don't want Kieran Tierney to go, and I thought that they were going to go for him. Maybe we've refused to sell to Newcastle or refused to sell him at all. And they're going in for Lewis Hall now. So I think it'll be a good signing because I'm not looking at the player thinking he's a shambles. But Newcastle need a left back. I just didn't expect them to go for Lewis Hall. Apparently, I think Goonie was saying on the show last night that he's a massive Newcastle boyhood fan as well.
Apparently so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely helped him. Someone's saying that Reece James is out for months again, apparently. I've not seen that.
Oh, wow.
Rumored. If that's true, that is unreal. I mean, this guy just cannot keep fit, can he? It's a worry because he's such a good player.
God, that's really bad if Reece James can't stay fit. I mean, who's their right back? That'd be Gusto, is it? Mali Gusto?
Well, it'll be Gusto. Gusto is Gusto is the guy, but I don't know much about him. But apparently he's highly rated. But
yeah. Shem said, "Hey Savva, I'll hit the like button when you tell me some Spurs news I like." Well, we won the title in 1961. There's some good news for you. I don't think most of us were alive for that, but we did win it. Smash that like button anyway, Tim. There's now 424 of you in here. Only 122 likes. Come on, people. And if anyone did want to subscribe, we're now only 36 likes away from 9,900. So, yeah, that agonising 10k last mile.
It's the hardest, man. When I got to 10k, it took me like forever, and then now I've got there, I'm like relief now. I'll just go up. Just go up. But mate, crazy.
Well, look, the link is in the chat, and if anyone did want to subscribe, it's pinned as well. So please do. Dan, got about 20 minutes left, just under 20 minutes. Yes. Right, I'm not going to bring up a particular comment about this, but. A few people were chatting earlier, and I don't want to go into too much detail about this, but there's talk today that the English FA, I don't know how true this is, could be lining up Serena Weigmann as the potential successor to Gareth Southgate. So obviously the women's manager as the potential successor to the men's national team manager. Now, this straight away, you can imagine, causes so much divide. This is a lot of sexism, a lot of divide. Without going into too much detail, do you give any credence to this? And what's your thoughts on it?
I think a lot of it is rumour. It's because they've got to the final and now someone's probably jumped on it and people have read it. So it's probably gone a bit viral and people are happy. They've done what they wanted to do to sell the story. In serious news, I wouldn't like it. And it's not because of all of the politics. It's because I don't think that she's got any experience to prove that she can win England a World Cup with the men's team. So I think personally it would be a bit of a strange move if it was to happen. I don't think Gareth Southgate's going to go anywhere, by the way. I think they're happy with him. I think they like the fact that he's really good with the media. I think they like the fact that we've come closest than ever to win tournaments. I personally feel like we should be having somebody better because I think we would have won a tournament by now, but that's just me. The FA think differently, and as long as they're happy with him, I don't think this is going to happen. I think he's going to stay, if I'm honest.
I tell you what, I truly believe as well that, listen, I'm not going to get dragged into the whole Serena Weigmann thing. I think that this will be, I don't think it will happen just because I think of politics, if I'm brutally honest. What I do agree with you on, though, is I think if England had had a better manager with a bit more of an attacking stance, this England squad in the last few tournaments should have gone all the way to something. I truly believe that. We've got some unbelievable talent. And when you look at some of the countries that have won things, yeah, they've got talent, but have they got more talent than us? I mean, if you take, I can't remember about to say this, if you take Messi out of Argentina, I know it's Messi, but, you know, I don't look at their squad and go, that is 10 times the squad that England have got. You know what I mean? And I do feel that if we had someone just a bit more of a Klopp, a Pep, you know what I mean? Someone a bit more forward thinking, that we might have won something. But hey,
I look at it, the free competitions or the free tournaments that we were in. We went 1-0 up against Croatia with a free kick from Trippier, if I remember rightly, and we sat back and we ended up losing in extra time. Then we went to the final of the Euros and we had Italy. We went 1-0 up with a Luke Shaw goal really early on. We're all over them, sat back again, let them come on to us. 1-1, we go to penalties and we lose. And then against France, if I'm honest with you, it's probably the only one I can sit there and say that he didn't sit back and try and lose the game. Well, it's not try to lose the game, of course, but you know what I mean. Harry Kane put it over the bar. Could have been a different thing. I get that. But some of his decision making was bizarre for me. To take Saka off, who for me was the best player, but I'm not saying that 'cause I'm a gooner. It was just facts. He was absolutely tearing people up. To bring on Jack Grealish with 90 seconds to go, I mean, he might as well just sat down and said, "I'm not interested." You know, like don't bring me on. To put players in favour such as Henderson and Mason Mount, how long has it taken him to put James Maddison into this side, and how long has it been for Jack Grealish to get nods and stuff like that? It's just very bizarre. And the thing that frustrates people, because it actually works, is the fact that he has so much trust in these players. So nobody wants Pickford as number one, but he hasn't let him down. Nobody wants Harry Maguire, but he hasn't let him down. Nobody really wants Kyle Walker and Trippier to be ahead of the likes of Reece James and Trent, but they've never let him down, So, and Luke Shaw has never let him down. So people might want Ben Chilwell or Ben White, or they might want Trent or Reece James playing. They might want Ramsdale in goal. They might want Maddison ahead of Mount. I agree with most of that, if I'm honest, but it ain't going to happen because Southgate's decided. When Southgate goes, Ben White will be in that side because he's top-notch quality, right? And you'll probably see Ramsdale getting the number one jersey unless he's a number two to Raya in the next season. So I think that Gareth Southgate has done well, but he hasn't done well enough. 3 tournaments, one of those we should have won for me. And with a better manager, I think we would have done that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. Let's move away from that. We do have a couple of super chats. We've done that one from Donna Cullen and that one from Donna Cullen. And Donna Cullen's come in with 2 more and said, "Mr. Savva, you don't appreciate me enough. buy me some proper centre backs and some centre forwards and we'll be all right, Donna." Come back in again and said, "Mr. Savva, I'm willing to leave the world behind me just to be with you. Are the feelings mutual on your side too? Let me swing that by the wife when she gets in from work, and I'll come back to you tomorrow." She might be glad to get rid of me, so who knows? But big up to you. And Eden Hazard, Chelsea number 10. I've not seen this account before, but welcome. Said, "I think Tottenham should just go get Orban now and have him through the middle with Son as option there as well. Smashing content, Savva. Just subscribe to Dan." Big up to you. Thank you so much. I don't disagree with you. Gift Orban's there. He's young. He's really rated. He's only apparently at 28 to 35 million. Go and get it done. Otherwise, someone else will. And then Spurs will be going, "Oh, other clubs always scout better than us."
Let's see. That account, by the way, and thanks for subscribing to the channel, man. Appreciate that, bro. Thank you.
And I did actually just delete a comment, and not on purpose. So apologies to the person who put that. But the question was to you, Dan, and it was, can Dan tell us, I'm going to have to paraphrase, can Dan tell us why Tierney is out of favour at Arsenal? It was something along those lines.
Yeah, face doesn't fit. Face doesn't fit with Mikel Arteta. He wasn't a Mikel Arteta signing. He's a great defender. Defensively, he's the best we've got at left back. He doesn't play the inverted role as well as Zinchenko and Timber or Kivior or Tomiyasu, so therefore he's out of favour. Kieran Tierney needs to leave Arsenal for himself. I don't want to see him go from a selfish point of view because I love the kid and I still think he can give us a different variety and dimension at left back, but I do think he needs to go. Unfortunately, Kieran Tierney has everything I love in a footballer in terms of his mentality, his professionalism, his attitude, the professionalism. I think he's top. But he doesn't seem to fit into Mikel Arteta's plans. Zinchenko is in favour ahead of him. Looks like Kivior, Tomiyasu and Timber all are as well. So I do worry for Kieran Tierney's Arsenal future. But if he does leave, he will go on to be a top player because that is exactly what he is. He's a very old school, top defending left back that can play in a left centre back three as well. That's why I want to keep him, man.
Yeah. No, listen, I agree with you. And sometimes I think that when we get players who are unglamorous, if I can call Kieran Tierney that, just does the fullback job, fans now seem to have forgotten what a fullback is. And we start knocking them because they can't do all the stuff going forward. But for me, I want a fullback that can defend first and foremost. Maybe I'm old school. The guy, I said Southgate is just a skinny Sam Allardyce. Digestive has said Southgate is a fraud. SOF, so where do you think Yao Felix goes? He's agreed to terminate his contract. As far as I'm aware, it's Barcelona who really want him, right? I think it was Barcelona who wanted Cancelo and Yao Felix to bolster their squad. And I'll be honest, I think they win the league again. I'm not going to hang around on this point, but I just don't think Real Madrid have got a striker.
No, they haven't, have they?
No, Benzema's gone. I don't think they've replaced him. So
no, I don't know who they're going to get either.
No, they brought in Yosselu from one of the lower Spanish clubs, but is that your Benzema replacement? I'm not sure it is. Some comments here. Ryan McFarland has a question for Dan. How would you rate Spurs window so far?
Not very highly, because you haven't addressed the massive gaping hole, which is your centre-backs. Van der Ven's a good player, apparently. I don't know much about him, but apparently he's highly rated. And him along with Romero will be fine. But what happens when they're out the side? You're back to Dyers and Sanchez's again, unless, of course, you sell them. So centre-backs are needed to get it anywhere over a 6. I love the James Maddison signing. I think he's top quality. I love him. I think he's an unbelievably good player. And I think that the midfield trio now of Bentancur, Basuma and Maddison will be a fantastic one. Mm-hmm. But to lose Harry Kane and to not address your midfield, you can't really give it more than a 5 or a 6 at the moment. There's really the Maddison signing, and then the rest of it is like, well, we've got one of them, need a bit more. I actually think one of the signings that you've made, which people might sleep on, but don't, Solomon. I quite like this kid. He's got creativity, flair, likes to shoot from outside, scored some absolute crackers for Fulham. So I don't think that's a bad signing whatsoever. But I do think that you're going to need another centre-half at least. And I do think you're going to need another centre-forward to get it anywhere near a 7 or a 8 out of 10 personally. But that's just coming from me as a gooner from the outside looking in. Guys might be happy with it.
Yeah, listen, I think it's left a lot to be desired. 14 days to go, but I agree with you. I like Van der Ven. I like Maddison. I think the rest of it is lots of maybes. Lots of, does Vicario work out? Does Solomon work out? Do Valise and Ashley Phillips as youngsters come through and have an impact? So for me at the moment, I'm looking at it as 2 proper first team additions and then a lot of maybes. So we'll see what happens there. Guys and girls, keep it nice in the chat. Mods, don't block people if they've just typed in capitals. Pain like Bane, come on, subscribe back. Don't be silly. You can't don't unsubscribe to me because someone asked you not to type in caps lock. Come on. Dan, you're going to go just for another 5 minutes and then let you go because I know you've got a show at 4. Question here from Alpesh, who has said, will Arsenal or Spurs go for Barca's Fati? I'll come to you from an Arsenal perspective, Dan, because Fati 2 years ago, I mean, I say 2 years ago, might have been 18 months ago, was talked about as one of the best young players in world football, had a serious injury and now doesn't seem to be that much in favour. I mean, would you take Fati at Arsenal?
Yeah, I would. Ansu Fati and Kudus are the 2 players that a lot of clubs are being linked with. Arsenal, Spurs, I think even West Ham and Brighton were linked with Kudus as well now. I think that these 2 are quality, and I think they've got so much more potential to get even better than they are. They can both play in a number of positions. I think Kudus can play in that attacking 8 option. He can play number 10. He can play wide. He can play up top. And Ansu Fati can play across the front 3. So I think both of these would be unbelievably good signings for either Spurs or Arsenal. And I think it will depend on what they want to do. Do they want to go and play first team football that's guaranteed? You're probably going to have to go to Tottenham if you want that, because I don't think you get ahead of Saka, Martinelli or Jesus. But you probably would get ahead of Richarlison. You probably would get ahead of Son at the moment, if I'm honest, because he's not been great. So it depends what they want there.
Fati walks straight into our team.
Exactly.
Let's have no doubts about that. Ansu Fati walks straight in on the right, on the left. I don't care. He walks into our team.
Yeah. So... and Kudus as well, So I think personally it'd be a very, very good signings. And like you say, it wasn't long ago before everyone was talking about this guy being absolutely superb. Like this guy's going to be outrageously good. So yeah, man, 100% I'm for it.
Danny, just stop. I'm not clocked onto Vicario. The problem that we're getting, Dan, is
go on.
So much hate for a goalkeeper that's played 90 minutes in the first team, and fans that give players hate after 90 minutes and their debut And then we've got fans saying, "Oh, give Sanchez another chance in what is his 6th or 7th season after being bad for all those years," and it just makes you laugh. Like, look, like the hate for a bloke who's made his debut is just unbelievable. Like,
What's the
unbelievable.
problem with him though? What's the problem with him?
Listen,
Because he's not Hugo Lloris level like yet or whatever. I mean, I know Lloris was dusted, but he was class before he got too old. I think you've got to give the kid a chance, man. He was apparently highly rated in Serie A. Buffon said he's top quality. I mean, there's not much better goalkeepers around telling you how good players are. I think you've got to give this guy a few games before you start writing him off. You know, if he's going to be a shambles, then fair play. Big up, Chris. Thank you, mate, for subbing to my channel. Appreciate that. No, come on, man. I tell you this now. I will. You can clip me if you want. He will be better than Hugo Lloris. Hugo Lloris was absolute clangers week in, week out at the end. He had to go. So it's an upgrade for me, Vicario. That's what I think.
Do you know what? I'm not saying he's amazing because I can't say I've seen.
Neither am I. I don't know anything about him really,
But when fans jump on a goalkeeper after 90 minutes, now bearing in mind, Dan, that this goalkeeper's come in to an unsettled back four. It's not like you're buying a new goalkeeper for Man City and you've got Diaz, Ake, Stones, Walker in front of you, right? You're bringing him into what essentially half the back four is brand new in Adoji and Van der Ven. You know, Romero only played 11 minutes of that game, and Emerson Royal isn't the greatest, and yet straight away he's not that good. He's suspect. We need a new goalkeeper. I've never known anything like it. The knee-jerk reactions nowadays to new players is just shocking, just absolutely shocking. But it is what it is. Listen, Dan, I am going to let you go. I just see if we've got any more questions. Miss Bumble has said, all right, Savva, I'll ask this to Dan, actually. What do you reckon on a Patrick Schick coming in? Looks like he had a decent record, 70 appearances with 36 goals. If he was given more minutes, could it work for Spurs? Schick, you a fan of Schick?
Yeah, I don't mind him, actually. Had a really good, was it Euros or World Cup? Can't remember. I actually don't mind him. And I think that he is, do you know what, actually saying that, he is probably one of those attributes of Harry Kane that we're talking about. It's funny because when you say attributes of Harry Kane, everyone thinks you're comparing him. You can't compare anybody to Harry Kane, right? Let's have it right. I can't stand the bloke, but he was unreal, absolutely unreal centre forward. So you can't say, oh, because they've got the same attributes, Schick should get as many goals as Harry Kane. I'll be absolutely astounded if anybody walks into Spurs and gets 30 goals. I'll be absolutely astounded. But again, I don't think Jonathan David, Patrick Schick would be shockingly bad signings for Spurs. I really don't. And I think with what you've got at the moment, it's an upgrade on nobody. Let's be real. You know, you've got Son, Richarlison, and Kulo, and none of them play up top, really, do they? None of them really genuinely are centre forwards that score 20 goals a season. They're just not. You know. So,
no. Completely agree with you. By the way, everyone, smash the like button. That's all you got to do. Smash the like button. There's 428 of you in here and 152 likes. I told you, Dan, when I said that the Spurs fans are tight on the likes. Tight on the likes. Christopher Ward, who's an Arsenal fan, said, Savva, did Spurs actually put in a bid for Raya? I'm confused as to why he came to Arsenal, if I'm honest. All the noises coming out were that Spurs did bid 35 million and that Brentford were holding out for more. Then I think they probably bit off a bit more than they could chew and realised no one's going to pay 40 million for him. Next thing you know, he's going to you boys, Dad, on loan with a 27 million buyout clause. Do you think Brentford just kind of, shot out the gates a little bit too early with their transfer fee for him?
No, I'm not sure if it is that. It's probably the most bizarre signing of the window. I think we can all agree on that, this one. But I know for a fact 2 years ago before Ramsdale, we were looking at David Raya when they were in the Championship because our goalkeeping coach at the time had just come from Brentford and said, you've got to sign this guy. He's insane. His distribution is unbelievable. He's fantastic in every part of his game. And then he proved why. For 2 years at Brentford, he's been one of the better goalkeepers this year, in the last couple of years in the Premier League. And then when Tottenham put in a bid, I thought, oh, that'll be accepted. 35 to 40 million. Tottenham will go up to 40 million and they'll get him. And when Brentford had sort of said, no, we want this much, and Tottenham has said, no, we're not going to do that. I think what's then happened is Arsenal have knocked on the door and David Raya's gone, yeah, I want to go because I know the goalkeeping coach. I want to go and fight for my place and I want to go and win the title with him. And yeah, listen, although I don't think we're good enough to win the title, maybe David Raya's looking at that and thinking that he can get in that number one position and go for a title as opposed to go for the top 4 or top 5 with Spurs. So I think it's a lot on what David Raya has and his connection with the goalkeeping coach, and also the fact that Mikel Arteta really likes him. So that's what I think's happened there, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I will say is the last super chat here is from Tom Whitton. Big up to you, Tom. Thank you for the support. So big up to you, Sav. I've seen enough of Richarlison. Don't think he's a technical enough finisher. We need Gift Orban. Yeah, just to put this in perspective, Tom and Dan checked out earlier. He's 26 years of age and he's got something like 85 goals in his entire career. And it's just not enough. If you think he's been playing football since the age of 16, 17, it averages out at about 10 goals a season. And that's okay. That's great. But not if you've got aspirations to go and do a little bit more. I think that's okay for Everton. I think that's all right.
I thought this was a mad signing, really, 60 million when you got him. And I remember Robbie and Judges on AFTV. I couldn't believe it. They were going, I think this is a better signing than Arsenal Jesus. And I thought they both must have been on LSD or something. I thought, what are they talking about? I'd rather have Jesus. I'm sorry. But it has not worked for him. So you're going to have to go and get somebody else. Big up to Brazigo as well. Thank you, mate.
Yeah. Anyone that hasn't, go over and sub to Dan's channel. He may be an Arsenal fan, but his channel is not all centered around Arsenal. He has lots of different shows, Race for Europe shows, relegation shows, mid-table shows, which Spurs are in now. He has shows about the title race. So please get over there. The link to Dan's channel, if one of the mods would be so kind right now to stick it in, Football's 12-Man podcast, it is in the bio for this stream as well. Dan, listen, thanks so much for coming on, mate. Go over there and support Dan. Smash the like buttons and come on, guys and girls. We're now only 30 away from 9,900. So I'll pop the link in the chat. Please, on your way out, smash the subscribe if you haven't already. Here is the link to Dan's channel. Thank you so much, Ben, as always. Go over there. Ben. Dan, thanks for coming
live
on,
now.
mate.
Literally in 3 minutes, I'll be going live. So if you want to head over, that'd be great stuff, guys. I appreciate that.
No worries. Dan, I'll let you go. I'm going to do the outro. Don't worry about sticking around. I know you've got a show. So I'll catch you later, mate. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Cheers, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you later.
Bye-bye.